Business is booming for Chinese EV makers. Last year, 1 in 4 cars sold in China was electric, doubling the number of EVs purchased the year before. And that upward trend is expected to continue. The number of electric cars sold in China is forecast to hit 8 million in 2023. That's up from 6 million last year. And it's just not the cars themselves, of course. China also dominates the market for the batteries that power them. In 2022, China had more battery production capacity than the rest of the world combined. 6 out of the world's top 10 battery makers are Chinese. But when all those EVs hit the road, they need a place to charge. China has invested heavily in the infrastructure needed to make that happen. It installed 650,000 public chargers last year alone. That's 10 times the number in the United States. Well, Alex Wu is president and CFO of NaaS, a leading EV charging service provider in China.
I think there's still a long way ahead, right? So in China today, there's really only 13 million EVs, which sounds a lot, but if you compare with the 300 million vehicles in China, it is still a small percentage. So in terms of EV charging service and in terms of EV charging infrastructure, I think there is still a long way to go. I guess the market, from the estimate, will be growing at about 50% CAGR for the next 8 to 10 years.
How's the world doing when it comes to EV charging infrastructure?
Yeah, I think China is clearly the leader and the pioneer in this space. Some of the other markets are obviously less mature. I think the other market that is probably close to China from its maturity perspective is in Europe. But I think one thing is very clear is that globally people are very passionate and keen about the ICE to EV transition.
So I just want to ask you about the inevitable rise of car ownership and electric car ownership in particular. Are you so convinced around the world it's going to continue to grow in the face of the widespread concerns about urban congestion, pollution from EV batteries, 15-minute cities? That's a big thing. Is it inevitable it grows and grows and grows?
If you think about how the energy is utilized and how the energy is supplied in our vehicles, I think fundamentally the transition from ICE to EV makes a difference. For ICE, where fuel cannot be tracked, there's no digital aspect in the fuel world. But in the EV world, electron is naturally digitalized, right? They can track the energy supply of a vehicle almost real time with the precision of milliseconds. So I think that transition is not just a replacement, it's also an opportunity to put more technology, more analytics, and more data into the mix, and eventually make the energy usage more efficient.
Where do you see the potential for expansion and untapped demand?
We're looking at, for example, the Middle East and Southeast Asia. We think we can take the best practices that we accumulated in China over the past couple of years, including processes and technologies to these markets, and we can help those countries kickstart its charging infrastructure and charging service.